I think it's important, given the enormity of the issues here, the enormity of the implications, negative, may I say, in terms of the economy of the United Kingdom, of Ireland, and Europe, that we must use all the available time that we have to reach an agreement. Because I say it straight out, I believe a no deal would be very damaging to our economy, to the United Kingdom's economy, and indeed to Europe as well. So politicians have an obligation to the people that they represent. So we should use the time as much as we possibly can.
We're always already at that point where, it won't be possible for each member state to perhaps ratify the deal, for the Parliament to have its say on the deal. So what will happen if it takes another week or so? Will there be a bridging situation? Could you apply the deal that was agreed prior to ratification in January? So what's the situation there? What could happen?
Well, our immediate focus obviously is in trying to make sure that the EU and the UK can arrive at a deal that will be satisfactory in terms of a future relationship. Europe has it within its capacity to develop proper ratification procedures. It is tight, I acknowledge that, and time is running out. But I do believe that with some degree of creativity, we can facilitate the ratification of a deal, perhaps on a staged basis. But I think it's one that we can satisfactorily resolve once we actually get a deal in place.
So the outstanding issues remain, of course, fisheries, where there's been very little progress since March, really, on this issue, and, of course, level playing field, state subsidies and governance. Can you tell us a little bit about where they are at this stage and what's so outstanding that they haven't been able to, bridge the gap?
Well, I think they've gone quiet in the last 2 to 3 weeks, the negotiating teams on both sides, which we take as a good sign, in the sense that it's fair to assess that there's been a degree of intensive negotiations over the last number of weeks. Fisheries, the sides were very far apart. And it seems to me that a move has to be made to try and deal with the issue over the coming week. On level playing field, I think we do all realise the fears on both sides in terms of one getting an advantage over the other in relation to the application of state aids and so forth. But I do believe there is a landing zone on the level playing field. That then leads into a dispute resolution mechanism that would enable both sides to react if one was undermining the agreement and in breach of the agreement.
Just moving on to some other EU issues. We heard in July, an unprecedented moment where we had the agreement of the EU budget and the €750 billion EU rescue fund. There are 2 countries now who are objecting to that, who are stopping its progress when there are many member states who really need access to that money. What's your opinion on the move by Hungary and Poland last week?
I'm very, very disappointed with the move. I think it's unwarranted. This is a very significant financial package. It was a historic breakthrough in terms of the collectivization of debt and all of the EU states working together to raise money on the markets, allocate grants to the member states who need it, and loans. Ireland is a net contributor now to the European Union budget, yet we were enthusiastic supporters of this package. Why? Because we believed it represented Europe working in unison against a global pandemic, probably one of the most serious threats you can get to the European Union economy in 100 years. And therefore, it was a great demonstration of a new departure in terms of European policy. And to have it now slow down or held back because of 2 member states having difficulties with the agreement arrived at between the Parliament and the Council is very regrettable. Now, I want to pay tribute to the German presidency and to Angela Merkel for the work that she has been doing, first of all, in brokering a deal with Parliament, because that was not easy, but also to committing to continuing to work with the 2 member states concerned and the presidency with a view to getting a resolution of this. And she did give an assessment at our meeting last week on this issue. The member states concerned spoke as well, but others did who really need this funding, because some countries took a very significant hit in terms of mortality and in terms of economy in the first wave, never mind the second wave, we in Ireland know the economic dislocation that has occurred. We, like other countries, now have a very large deficit, for example, and we'll have next year. So it is important that that great breakthrough in July is given reflection, or is manifested in the drawdown of money by member states.
But speaking to those countries specifically, the fact that they're putting an obstacle in front of those member states having access to that money, the fact that they pursue illiberal democracies, that they diminish the rights of LGBT people, of refugees, in Hungary expelled a university, that consistently breach rule of law and are only being asked to simply obey basic rule of law. Speaking to those two countries, what's your position?
Well, my position is that they should withdraw their objections to this package and facilitate the drawdown of money by member states. I believe the treaty is there to deal with the undermining of basic EU core values. I have real concern in terms of the attitude of the member states, and particularly in Poland, for example, recently in relation to LGBT plus, and that's not acceptable to many in Ireland, for example, in terms of that issue. And more broadly speaking, I would say, however, that there are mechanisms there within the treaty where any undermining of the values of the EU should be dealt with. And I think that's the context. In my view, given the severity of the crisis occasioned by COVID-19, it is very, very important that these remaining obstacles are removed.